You're now streaming to Rumble. You're now streaming to LubeTube. That's not good. Now live streaming to TikTok. Hello, TikTok. Hello, Rumble. Hello, YouTube. Hello, Moto. We're all on here. We're all going to get together. We're all going to do our thing. We're all going to say hello. How you doing? YouTube? Shut the fuck up. I don't want to listen to my stupid voice on two things. There we go. We're going to mute that just so we can look at it. Hello, everyone. Multicasting on TikTok, YouTube, and Rumble. We're getting set up here. Bear with me. Your videos go live. Gotta make sure we cut the sound on this as well. And we're live on YouTube. Redeem your promote coupon. Redeem. You guys have been fucking me over for the money I've spent. Why not? Yeah, fuck off. They're gonna give it to me for free? Fuck you. I've spent enough that TikTok has fucked me over with. Okay, we're just getting squared away here. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Sunday Shitbag Roundup. We're live on TikTok Live, YouTube, and Rumble. We're going to wrap up the week's events, or the couple of weeks' events, because I don't think I've done the Shitbag Roundup in a couple of weeks. But hello and welcome, everyone. So we're going to start for the TikTok audience, and I'm sure there's people on YouTube and Rumble that are also concerned about this. And this is the purchase of TikTok. I posted a couple of videos on TikTok, and they got throttled by TikTok, which is odd. If you'd like to promote what's going on with TikTok, and I'm trying to do that, and then you throttle my video, it defeats the purpose of the promotion of TikTok. But maybe they're upset that they're going to be bought out, and they're not happy with it, so they don't want to do it. But TikTok has a couple of potential buyers. First, I'll start with Trump has extended the deadline. If you're on TikTok right now, you knew it was going to end on the 5th, and you're still on it right now. You might be asking yourself, how am I still on this when it was supposed to end on the 5th? And the answer is President Trump, has extended it about 75 days, 72 to 75 days at this point, in order to facilitate the sale. Now, there's some hiccups going on with it, and there's China playing hardball, and that's because of the tariffs. So we're going to see how it all plays out, especially behind the scenes. But TikTok had a couple of potential buyers. One was Amazon. Jeff Bezos and Amazon made an offer on TikTok. The second was this gentleman right here, Reed Rasner of Wyoming. Now, we're looking at his page right here to run for office because Reed Rasner was running for Republican office in Wyoming. He ended up losing that primary last year or the year before. But this billionaire from Wyoming, which is a pro-Trump, pro-America, pro-conservative guy, pro-free speech, is one of the top forerunners for one of the ones that will be able to put in a successful bid for TikTok, potentially even ahead of Amazon. Now, the older millennial has already had an interview with Reed Rasner. I didn't get to see it. Perhaps some of you did. But this is one of the guys that has the top bid for it, and it's him in contention with Amazon. We'll see how it plays out. But Reed Rasner is a proud fourth-generation Wyomingite who embodies the grit and resilience and values of the cowboy state, Born and raised in Casper, Wyoming, Reed's life has been shaped by the unique spirit of his home state, one of hard work, independence, and community. Bear in mind, this is his page from when he was running for office in Wyoming, which he was primaried and he wasn't successful. Reed's journey began early. At just 13 years old, he landed his first job sweeping floors at Wyoming Glass, learning the fundamentals of business from the ground up. That summer, Reed saved every dollar he earned to buy his first bike. A feel-good story. Appreciation for hard work, financial responsibility, yada yada. By age 16, Reed was already investing his hard-earned money into the stock market, discovering not only the value of hard work, but also the importance of investing early and often. These formative experiences laid the groundwork for his entrepreneurial spirit, commitment to financial independence. They are the moments in the makings of one Wyoming's greatest business leaders and innovators, dedicated to preserving Wyoming's values while shaping a stronger, more prosperous future for the cowboy state. So for everybody that's joining on TikTok, and I'm seeing a lot that are joining right now, this guy, Reed Rasner, has the top bid for TikTok currently, as I understand it. And he's in lockstep with Amazon. So we're going to see how it all plays out. Trump, again, has given the extension for TikTok by 75 days. And I called this earlier on. And TikTok ended up throttling me. I called it last week about Thursday the 4th, a day before this was going to happen. And I had called the original, not to toot my own horn here, but I had called originally with the first shutdown that TikTok was not going to be shut down. And this is when I want to communicate to other people, because there's so much conversation and rumors and everything that goes behind the scenes, and everyone's talking, and you don't know about what you should know and what's going on. And when I was looking at the information for the first time around, it was Trump was happy about the exposure he got from TikTok and people that were on there and how successful his page came. And then for his inauguration, the owners of TikTok were coming from ByteDance, were coming to attend the inauguration and then have conversations with him at well. So early on, when they were talking about shutting TikTok down, I said, call me the prophet if you wish. If you wish. It's totally up to you. But I said TikTok wouldn't be shut down. Now, it went for them to be pains in the ass. It went for less than 24 hours, the initial. That was Saturday evening, about 7 p.m., going into Sunday morning around 11 a.m. where they started TikTok back up again. So it was a dramatization by TikTok to upset everyone, where they shut it down early, and then they brought it back on at 11 a.m. on that Sunday, and I said, it's not going away. Trump is negotiating with them. It's going to continue. Now for the second one. I called last week, and I said again, we don't have enough definitive information about what's going to happen with, check, I get it. So what if it goes down? I agree. Listen, I know that there's a lot of feelings about TikTok, pro and against. I could take it or leave it, especially with the censorship on TikTok. Anyone that's been using TikTok, you know how much they've been... freedom of speech in general. There are two different ways that TikTok goes. If you do a video, I have a little bit more of free speech when I do the video. When I'm typing something and I leave a comment, yes, TikTok is a life function to some. You're correct about that, Check. And because a lot of them are making their money off of it. A lot of them are doing their stupid videos, right, where that you have the couple, the boyfriend or the girlfriend, and the boyfriend does some stupid things, and the girlfriend gets angry and throws a flip-flop at him, and we're all laughing and we're all having a good time about it. It's all dumb shit. And that's what it pushes, is dumb shit. And it gets away from focusing on the people who, like myself and others, that are content creators that do the news, that want to share information with people. And it attacks those that share information with people. Those specifically that seem to be conservative more than anything else. So there are so many comments that I've had, and I'm sure that you all have seen this, where even if it's a mundane comment, you end up getting flagged with a community violation for it. You'll say, oh, these knuckleheads are not doing smart things. And then you get a community violation, a strike on your comment for saying these knuckleheads are doing things that aren't smart. Because it doesn't allow you the free speech of typing, and in some cases the free speech of video as well. So you have to be so careful. And you shouldn't have to with TikTok. TikTok is a company that is participating in the United States consumer base and in the United States in general. You should be forced in TikTok to comply with free speech in the United States, and it hasn't up to this point, and that's a problem. So I'm hoping that, as you're seeing here, Reed Rasner and Amazon, that one of these companies will pick up TikTok, and the sale will go through. And these are, at least Rasner is a pro-American, pro-conservative, pro-free speech individual. So if he gets it, we'll all have. It's not funded by public funds. Correct, but check. I'll bear in mind being funded by public funds. So isn't NPR, and that's a left-wing shithole. So isn't PBS with Sesame Street and the others. Those have turned into left-wing shitholes as well. You'll know that Sesame Street is turned into, it's got LGBTQ plus minus divided by sign, and NPR, which is partially funded by taxpayer funds, is also radically left. So the fact that it's funded by public funds isn't in and of itself a saving grace, because those companies are abusing taxpayer funds as well, and they're using it to push their own their own agenda. It's not as crowdsourced. Which one? Check. Which one is crowdsourced? It's crowdsourced and publicly funded. NPR. NPR is both. It's crowdsourced, but NPR is also funded by taxpayer dollars, if you look it up. And it's still leftist on NPR. Part of its funding can be crowdsourced. Part of its funding is also taxpayer dollars. And they still push a left-wing agenda. Okay, but can you so check. For everybody else on YouTube and Rumble, I'm speaking with people on TikTok as well. Check. Can you tell me why you have voluntarily sent money to NPR, knowing that they're primarily a left-wing base, unless you yourself feel that way? You can let me know in the comments. So, in the meantime, as we continue here, it's much like a subscription. Yeah, but it's still getting the taxpayer dollars. And that's the problem with NPR. And it's using taxpayer dollars, whereas we don't have any choice in the matter. And it's on the left, I'm sure they're happy with it for NPR. On the right, we're not happy with it. If you want to be neutral and you want to make your own money your own way, that's fine. But if you're taking taxpayer dollars, but you're going one particular way, that's the problem with NPR. And NPR leans very heavily left while taking taxpayer dollars. PBS, what you're talking about with subscriptions, PBS is exactly the same. So for anyone that's grown up throughout the years, PBS has Sesame Street. Saudis. Well, yeah, that's the way it's gone. The golf. Well, with the golf tournaments, this is what's happened. Check here, which I'm talking about on TikTok, is talking about how the professional golf tour has split into two avenues. One is the regular funded American golf tour. There's a second one that's been started off that's been funded by the Saudis and other organizations. I say, because I don't follow golf enough, that I don't have a problem with them diversifying, depending on how they're handling it. Again, if an organization becomes too funded by one side or the other, to be fair, Mr. Trump won the golf tournament championship today. Yeah, but depending on where he plays, I think he wins a lot of them. But that's all right. It's a totally separate thing. But funded by public funds. Yeah, but if the Saudis are taking over, I don't want to say I don't have a problem with it, but if they're diversifying and they're finding another avenue to go to, I know some of the pro golfers were running into problems where their public opinions were getting attacked, and some guys were giving either less playtime and weren't invited to some of the championships based on their political affiliations. So I don't think that's fair, that I don't have a problem with it. I have a problem with it, to be fair, I have a problem with it if it's far left running and taking control of something, in far right running and taking control of something. Because I have a problem with the left taking over everything. And if it's going radically far right, I have a problem with it too, but with the caveat being, if the left can do it, the right can do it. For a rigged tournament, I don't want a rigged tournament, of course. But it's not, is the pro tournament that Trump's playing in, if I'm assuming at what you're getting at, check. The tournament that he's playing in that is allegedly rigged at his level and that thing, is it a huge deal? Is it the pro level that everyone else is at? I don't think so. Trump's not playing at that. So if he's playing at lower levels and it's rigged to a degree, do I care about it? No, not really, because it's not affecting the larger stage of the pros, which are on the one avenue, the one that's run by the United States, the PGA, and the one on the right, or on the other side, not necessarily the right, but the one on the other side that has been purchased by the Saudis. It's like the LGA or something, and they've started their own league. The cheating, I can't speak to that. I don't know. You're bringing that up, and I don't have proof. And we're also branching off the avenue of what I'm trying to talk about. We're talking about the PGA, the pro circuit. Trump is not on the pro circuit. I'm talking about the pros, and Trump's not there. So on the main avenue that's in the United States, and in the other that has been purchased by the Saudis, but it's also a splinter group that is allowing people to not be attacked for free speech, people for not to be attacked by their political beliefs, and that's what's been infiltrating the PGA, which I didn't see that. I didn't see that he won a championship today. But it's not a PGA championship, is it? Is that a PGA? Okay. So Trump wins club championship? So let's see what it has to say about this. Trump advances a championship round of senior golf club tournament days after imposing waves of tariffs. So let's look into it. President Donald Trump has advanced to Sunday's final round of a Florida golf tournament. The senior club, but senior is like one of the two things. So senior as far as your participation, or senior based on age. After winning in the second round Saturday, the White House announced. The president won his, I see that, he won today. The president won his second round matchup of the Senior Club Championship today in Jupiter, Florida, and advances to the championship round on Sunday. Trump will look to win his second golf championship in a month. In early March, he won the golf championship at his club, Palm Beach in Florida. Trump suggested that the tournament would be his last on the Truth Social post, but it turns out it wasn't. I just won the Golf Club Championship, probably my last at Trump International Golf Club in Palm Beach County, Florida. Such a great honor. The awards dinner is tonight at the club. Is so much winning. Check. So you're against Trump. Should I assume that based on what you're saying here? By the way, from what I'm reading here, this is not PGA. So what's the point that you're trying to make? This isn't PGA. This is not the pros. And you're saying, yes, he is a winner. You're saying he's cheating, but you need to provide me proof that he cheated in this. And I don't think you have it. And again, not the PGA. And the PGA and the Saudis buying in to create their own PGA league, totally different thing from what Trump is playing in. He is not playing in either one of these leagues. So we're going to move on here for everybody else. So there was a book written about it. Written about what? So Trump to delay the TikTok ban enforcement with another executive order. We're going to move on here. I don't want to get bogged down with golf talk and where Trump's playing and where the PGA is. And Trump is not in the PGA, just to be clear. So President Trump on Friday said he was signing another executive order to delay the enforcement of a law that effectively bans TikTok amid talks about a possible deal to sell the widely popular platform. President Trump, I don't know why they're saying Mr. Trump. This is just the radical left trying to denigrate his name. Is President Trump, you fucking lefty cunts. Signed an executive order on his first day directing the Justice Department to enforce a ban for 75 days. The order instructed the Justice Department not to take action or impose penalties against any entity for non-compliance. Let's get rid of these fags here. Okay. And the executive order expires Saturday, April 5th. President Trump said Friday he would enforce a law for another 75 days. He wouldn't enforce a law for another 75 days. My administration has been working very hard on a deal to save TikTok, and we have made tremendous progress. The deal requires more work to ensure all necessary approvals are signed. The president wrote, "We do not want TikTok to go dark. We look forward to working with TikTok and China to close the deal." A deal had been reached Wednesday between investors, TikTok's Beijing-based parent company ByteDance, and the U.S. government that it would have spun TikTok's operations in the U.S. into a new company that was owned and operated by a majority of American investors. According to a source familiar with the plans, the deal allowed ByteDance to keep a minority stake, and President Trump, fucking cocksuckers, President Trump, you see how fucking these cunts try to play on words here? It's not Mr. Trump, you CBS fucks. It's President Trump. But the way they run this article, the way this cocksucker writes this article is, check, the emperor has no clothes. Yeah, and it references don't pay attention to what anyone's doing. You know what, Check? I'd like you to tell me about all the cheating that Dementia Joe did. How much he lied, how much he embezzled, how much he put money in his pocket, how much his son was the bag man for all his illegal endeavors with Burisma, with China, in Ukraine, and others. Why don't you tell me about the emperor's clothes with Biden? Or is it goes one way and not the other, right? Biden can do no wrong, but Trump's a bad guy? I don't give a fuck. And we don't have the proof, by the way. I don't give a fuck if Trump cheats in golf. But Biden cheats, Biden lies, Biden embezzles money and puts it in his pocket, but you don't have a problem with it? Why don't you explain that to me? Because it's been proven that the laptop was real, that Biden's son Hunter was part of the energy company Burisma in Ukraine, that he had no qualifications whatsoever to be on the board of directors in Burisma in Ukraine. Yet he was, because he had a direct line of communication to Biden in the White House, because Biden sold out the United States of America to line his pockets with money. So Check, what do you got to say about that? The emperor has no clothes? Same deal applies with Biden, far worse with Biden. So tell me about that. So we'll continue here. A deal had been reached Wednesday between investors. TikTok's base parent company, ByteDance, and the U.S. government would have spun TikTok's operations into the U.S. In accordance to familiar with the plans. The deal allowed ByteDance to keep a minority stake, and President Trump planned to sign an order approving the deal and allowing for a 120-day closing period. Now, things like this can be common, and I'll explain it to everyone as a union member as well, that it goes with contracts. You can have a closing date where everything is going to fail, but as long as there's a tentative agreement, and this is the game they play, a tentative agreement that's verbally agreed by everyone, in a closed-door meeting or whatever, as long as you have that, you won't end up running into the deadline. You'll continue and be given a grace period in order to settle the agreement. This is what's happening with TikTok right now with the 75-day extension. It appears to be a tentative agreement where an investor, either Reed Rasner or Amazon or etc., is the highest bidder to take over TikTok. Now, what I've said previously and what's going to happen now is the board of directors for this whole transfer is probably, in order China and ByteDance is happy, will have a couple higher-ups from ByteDance who will end up coming over and be on the board for TikTok here in the United States. But primarily, the United States will have an American owner of it. And then these others that come from ByteDance that will be on the board of directors will help to pursue its interests. So we'll see how it all plays out, but chances are that's what it's going to be. Under a bipartisan law passed last year, ByteDance originally had until January 19th to divest from TikTok or be cut off from the U.S. app stores and hosting services. TikTok briefly and voluntarily shut down before the January deadline, but reinstated access to the U.S. users after President Trump, who took office one day after the deadline, vowed to take action. Apple and Google did not restore TikTok to their U.S. apps for nearly a month after President Trump, fucking shitbags, President Trump issued the first directive. And if anyone remembers when this happened, if you weren't someone that kept TikTok on your phone, there were people who were purchasing phones that still had the app on for thousands of dollars. Because if you were someone who got rid of the app on your phone after TikTok went offline and you were like, fuck this, it's never coming back, and then you deleted it, you couldn't get it back again. So there were people who were going nuts, and on eBay and on Facebook Marketplace and others, people were paying thousands of dollars for anyone who had an old phone that still had TikTok on it so you could access TikTok after this cancellation it had been crazy. And I had some old iPhones too. I should have taken advantage of it. Even though President Trump has declined to enforce the ban, the law is still on the books, and companies like Apple and Google could be penalized down the road for violations. But the law provides the authority for restrictions to be lifted on TikTok in the event of a sale. Now, what they're talking about here is Congress and the Supreme Court put in place that TikTok was going to be banned in the United States. Lucky I didn't delete it, yeah. And if the penalty would be this: any company that allowed the app to still be on their platform, so that was Android and Google Play Store, or iTunes and the iTunes App Store, every day that you allowed the app to be on your store, there was a financial penalty that went along with it. And that's how much it would be charged to you by the federal government. So what Trump has done at this point in extending the time frame for the ban while they negotiate the purchase of TikTok is he is not going to allow the federal government to impose financial penalties on either Apple or Google Store. So that's what's happening right now. It's a formality. If he didn't step in, the federal government could take Apple and Google to court and then charge them huge amounts of penalties for having the app on there despite the cancellation. So what Trump has said with an executive order is we're not going to enforce it. So it's on the books, sort of, that you can go after TikTok, but he's not going to allow the federal government to do it. In a statement after President Trump's announcement Friday, these cocksuckers with this, fuck you, CBS. Mr. Trump, fuck off, you leftist cunts. It's President Trump. A ByteDance spokesperson acknowledged the company has been in discussions with the U.S. government about a potential solution. An agreement has not been executed. There are key matters to be resolved. Any agreement will be subject to approval under Chinese law, the spokesperson said. President Trump suggested last month he could ease tariffs on the Chinese if they approve the deal. So a lot is happening behind the scenes for this to go through. And China is playing a little bit of hardball here with the Chinese tariffs, saying, "Well, maybe we won't allow the company to be sold if you're going to have the 10% tariffs go through with China." So now there's going to be an argument behind the scenes. You're going to figure it all out. You may see President Trump lessen the tariffs on China, and in return, China will allow the sale of TikTok. The reason that this is so important, and some people don't pay attention to this, any company that works in China is essentially intertwined like a snake with the Chinese Communist Party. There is pretty much no company that runs or exists within China that doesn't have some sort of relation to one degree or another with the Chinese Communist Party, which is the communist government of China. So when people try to tell you, well, TikTok's owned by ByteDance. ByteDance is a private Chinese company, but they don't have anything to do with the Chinese government. That's bullshit. Because to one degree or another, they are in direct communication with the Chinese Communist Party. And what they're attempting to do is steal information from other governments. So anyone that tells you ByteDance and TikTok is running independent of the Chinese Communist Party is lying to you. They're not being honest. So they're going to figure this all out. And with them selling TikTok, it's going to be a huge loss for them because they're using it to one degree or another as a spy platform. And by the way, TikTok doesn't really exist in China in the way that you see it currently in the United States. Any form of TikTok that exists in China is purely an educational platform. It teaches you arithmetic. It teaches you building skills. It teaches you all of these other things. If you're using the Chinese version of TikTok, you would not be able to identify it or compare it in any way, shape, or form to the version you're seeing in the United States because they do not allow the U.S. version in China because they don't want the people to be distracted by the garbage that happens on the platform in the United States. So you don't get the U.S. version of TikTok in China. So you've got those two platforms. You've got Amazon. You've got Reed Rasner. And you see here is another one that I saved here. Amazon joining the list of possible buyers in the race for TikTok. I want to thank everybody on TikTok as well. 1.7 thousand likes. Thank you so much, everybody that's been joining the page, liking it. Thank you very much. Amazon is the list of possible buyers in the race for TikTok. And you know what? Amazon's got the money as well. Amazon has submitted a bid to acquire TikTok, the New York Times reported Wednesday. The bid was in the form of an offer letter addressed to Vice President J.D. Vance and Secretary Howard Lutnick of the Department of Commerce, the newspaper said, citing a person briefed on the matter. But according to three people familiar with the bid, various parties who have been involved in talks on a potential TikTok sale do not appear to be taking Amazon's offer seriously, the report says. And you know what? Mr. Beast threw his hat in there as well. The tranny-loving pedophile. He's thrown his hat in there as well. But I don't think his bid for it is as big as Amazon and Reed Rasner. Amazon, which declined the national news desk request for comment, is one of the multiple entities that have been reported. And by the way, to cover my base, allegedly for Mr. Beast. Now, granted, Mr. Beast, I forget the guy's name, the one that he had working with him did trans himself. It was a man who became a woman. He had a family. He had a child. He ended up going trans. And it created a whole bunch of controversy for Mr. Beast. And he ended up kicking him out. But it took a while before that happened. So before I end up in a lawsuit, allegedly, Mr. Beast was involved in text messages and private communications on a communication app where he was with his buddy who went trans, and he was speaking to underage boys and girls and allegedly participating in inappropriate conversations with all of them. It was Mr. Beast, and it was his other buddy there that went trans that were part of these communications. So I'll say allegedly, but Mr. Beast was involved in these conversations as well, which suggests that he was part of the whole narrative as well, which is speaking with and having inappropriate conversations with minors. But I'll say allegedly, and then we'll move on. Okay. Amazon, which declined the national news desk request for a comment, is one of the multiple entities that have been reported to have made an offer for the app. President Donald Trump said, at least they said it right, in January that Microsoft was one of the companies interested in buying TikTok, another investor. And NPR reported the same month that software company Oracle was working to take ownership of the app. I'll tell you, Oracle is based in Texas. They have been handling all of the data from TikTok. So, in order for TikTok to participate within the United States, they had to share all of their data and algorithm with a United States company. Oracle is based in Texas, and they've been handling all of the data and algorithm from TikTok. The problem has been for Oracle that they have been absolutely overwhelmed by the amount of data and algorithm that has been coming from TikTok because it's so fluid and so much is happening with it. So much so that Oracle can't keep up. But Oracle is another company, but I haven't heard them as the top bid. It's Amazon, and it's Reed Rasner. ByteDance's TikTok's parent company has until Saturday to divest from the app. We've already passed that, obviously. Or the platform can be banned in the United States under a law passed last year. The original deadline for divestiture was January 19th, but Trump on Inauguration Day delayed enforcement of the law until less than 3 days from that point, which I told you when it was during the inauguration. The president and owners of ByteDance showed up for the inauguration in Washington and were in talks with Trump. That's how it got extended from there. The president said at the same time he was giving the administration an opportunity to determine the appropriate course forward in an orderly way that protects national security while avoiding an abrupt shutdown of a communications platform used by millions of Americans. The New York Times reported that Trump is scheduled to meet with top White House officials on Wednesday to discuss what will happen with TikTok. People familiar with the talks have outlined a potential deal that could include the involvement of Oracle and a private equity firm, Blackstone. Blackstone's concerning. For anyone that's unfamiliar with Blackstone, they're a private equity firm that has been buying up realty, not only all over the United States, but all over the world as well. There were rumors that they were going to buy up territory in Ukraine as well. Blackstone is one of those huge, kind of dark firms. To give you them, it's Blackstone and what's the other one? It's Vanguard. Vanguard Inc. as well is buying them up. Blackstone and the others are buying up private homes, and then they're turning around and they're renting them to other people. So they're buying private homes off the market, and then they turn around and they rent them to other people, so it's not possible to buy them again, which is kind of playing to this narrative that you've heard, where all of these large private equity funds are buying all of this up, so eventually no one can own their own home anymore. That it's like their ultimate goal. So everything that they're buying, everything that they're doing, it's so that you will never be able to own a home again, because Blackstone, Vanguard, or the others, these massive private equity firms, will own every house. They'll own the apartment buildings. They'll own the homes. You will never be able to find someone if they find somewhere if they have their way that you will be able to purchase your own home in the future. And should you find a house that you can actually buy, it will be so overpriced that no one within normal circumstances will be able to afford it. And that's what Blackstone and the others. If Blackstone is able to buy TikTok, it is going to be a huge kick in the ass to everybody. I could not possibly tell you what happens if Blackstone is able to buy TikTok, but I can't imagine it's anything good. But they're seeing their name in there, and I didn't realize this. Seeing their name in there is concerning for me. So Oracle is handling it in Texas, and the private equity firm Blackstone is an investor. And believe me, Blackstone has the money to buy TikTok. They have that and then some. They could buy Ukraine. They could buy half of the United States, and they're already working on that. I go on any investing thing and look at Blackstone stocks are like $500 to $1,000 a share, potentially even more. I haven't looked at it recently. But them, Vanguard, are the other ones to keep your eye on. They're keep an eye on them. Okay, so let's move on here to another story that I was ranting about earlier on in the week, and there's this bitch right here, Brittany Peterson. She's a Democrat in Colorado, as you can see, 7th District of Colorado. And she has had this bullshit push within Congress in order for new moms to be able to vote in Congress by proxy. So you could be sitting on your ass at your couch at home and then vote as a congressman or woman. I say man because you had Pete Buttigieg, and Buttigieg and his husband adopted a kid, if you remember this correctly. This fucking guy took like 2 months off from work during the Biden administration when he was the Secretary of Transportation. He took 2 months off and no one even realized he was gone because him and his husband adopted a child. And they had to take 2 months off from work in order for these two gay men to adopt their child and get settled into home. Now, Brittany Peterson of Colorado has this push, and she is going all over the place. Here she is. Here
restricts moms and dads from doing their jobs after welcoming a new child. Like so many of our colleagues, it's one of my greatest honors to be a mom. I have 2 little boys, a son named Davis, who's 5, and my little guy here, Sam, who's now 9 weeks old. It's also one of my greatest honors to have been elected by my constituents to represent them in Congress. And I can tell you, after being a mom here and being only the 13th member to have ever given birth while serving in Congress, voting member, I can tell you we have a long ways to go to make this place accessible for young families like mine. When I was pregnant, I couldn't fly towards the end of my due date because it was unsafe for Sam, and you're unable to board a plane, and I was unable to actually have...
So first I want to say something. It's unprecedented to bring your newborn into the House of Congress to yap and whine and complain to everybody about being a new mom. In my entire life, I have never seen bullshit like this. Now, some of you might be thinking to yourself, what is wrong with her? Yeah, Gorilla Guy, exactly. Now, for all of you who are saying, oh my God, Matt, you're a monster. You won't support a woman who has a kid. I'm going to make a point after all of this, but I want you to see the rest of this and see how ridiculous it is and how much of the virtue signaling this is. She is using her newborn as a prop, And this is what you're seeing here right now. I'm going to play the rest.
My vote represented here and my constituents represented. After giving birth, I was faced with an impossible decision. Sam was 4 weeks old, and for all of the parents here, we know that when we have newborns, it's when they're the most vulnerable in their life. It's when they need 24/7 care, when taking them even to a grocery store is scary because you're worried about exposure to germs and them getting sick, let alone taking them to an airport, on a plane, and coming across the country to make sure that you're able to vote and represent your constituents. I was terrified that no matter what choice I made, that I would have deep regrets for the consequences. And
so on TikTok, I just had somebody flag the live stream for hate speech. This isn't for the leftist. I'm assuming that did this. This isn't hate speech. I'm attempting to make a point, and this point is going to play to all of the parents, women of Gorilla Guy. When is Trump going to send out the stimulus checks? And then never held his children when they were infants? You don't know that. You're just guessing. So I'm going to move on to the person, or whoever it is, whether it's you or it's somebody else on here, this flagging it as hate speech. This isn't hate speech. I'm going to attempt to make a point after I've shown this video. So we're going to continue. And then I'm going to make my point about what is in relation to this woman here with her newborn, in the relation of it to every woman and parent and single parent in the United States of America. I'm going to make my point. Just hang on there, Gorilla.
While Sam is the best baby, I apologize for the noises here, but I want to thank Representative Luna for being such a
She apologizes, but she's doing it on purpose.
Alongside the rest of my colleagues who have led this charge and supported us in our efforts to pass this resolution. When I hear from members about their stories, whether they're a mom or a dad, doing this job, having a newborn who's in the NICU and having to make the choice whether or not to leave their child or come here to vote. It is unfathomable that in 2025, we have not modernized Congress to address these very unique challenges that members face, these life events where our voices should still be heard, our constituents should still be represented. But we're asking you to continue to stand with us, because no mom or dad should be in the position that I was in and so many parents have found themselves in. It is anti-woman, it's anti-family, and we need to come together to make sure that we kill this rule and have the opportunity to pass this resolution to make sure that new parents have the ability to continue to represent their constituents. And with that, I yield back.
Okay, so this woman has been all over the place, taking her kid around with her all through Congress, everywhere that she can go. Here's another video. She's being interviewed on News Live from ABC. Once again, she's got the baby in her arms. She's feeding the baby. Here's the point I'm going to make, and the game that Democrats are playing. Tell me how the rest of the parents of the United States of America, single women, single dads. I was a single dad. My children were removed from custody of their mother. They were removed by the state and turned over to me. Did I get to sling all of my kids onto my shoulder and walk into my job and do this bullshit virtue signaling that this woman is doing right now? No, I didn't. Do any mothers, regardless of whether they're in a relationship right now and it's a mom and dad in the family, or they're a single mom and they're raising the children by themselves, were they able to sling the baby over their shoulder, virtue signal, and do interviews and show up in the halls of Congress and pull the bullshit that this woman is doing right now? No, they weren't. This is another game by the Democratic Party in order to create a problem that doesn't exist. This is not America's baby. We did not knock this bitch up. She decided to get pregnant and have a baby on her own. No, she's not. She's a Democrat. And of course she is. She's a Democrat. Playing the game, pushing the bullshit. She's a Democrat. And this is this bullshit game that Democrats play. And by the way, I'm holding Republicans accountable as well, because a Republican from Florida joined in, another woman, to play along with this bullshit virtue signaling game that Brittany Peterson is doing in order to support her for this garbage. Look, I played you one video where she's in the halls of Congress and she's talking, and she's got the baby in her arms. No one has done this in the entire lifetime that I'm aware of my 45 years of life. No one has brought a baby into the halls of Congress and had a conversation with a newborn in their arms. No one has done these interviews with a newborn in their arms. This is all virtue signaling garbage. And let me tell you why it's not fair. This isn't a derogatory statement against women. This is to speak towards how this is unfair to all of the women and all of the parents and taxpayers of the United States of America. Tell me who's allowed to do this other than this bitch. Women who are construction workers, women who are driving trucks, women who are working in the office, women who are working in the factories, single dads who are raising your kids and are doing the exact same that I just described to you. Can any one of you tell me that you brought your newborns to work? Can any of you tell me that you were allowed to bring your newborns to work? Now you can tell me, well, as a guy, Matt, you have no dog in this fight. You don't have the right to talk about this. I just explained earlier that the state removed the children from their mother's custody and turned it over to me. And do you know what I had to do? I had to take emergency vacation time from work. I had to hire a babysitter. I had to get them enrolled in school, all on my own time. And then I had to put this all together so I could return back to my full-time job to provide for the two children that I just took responsibility for. Why do I say that? Because the state gave me an ultimatum. They said, you can take full custody of your children and responsibility for them, or you can give them up to foster care and you won't have the responsibility for them, but maybe down the road you can set up visitation rights. Of course, I did the right thing. I stepped up. I took care of my kids. And I put everything in place in order to make sure they were taken care of. There was a sitter for them. I could go to work while the sitter was home with them, and I could provide for my family. You know what I wasn't allowed to do? Sling them over my shoulder and play the game that this fucking bitch did on the House floor. Now, she decided to run for office. She decided to get knocked up. She decided to use her baby as a prop. The statement that I'm making here about what she's doing is not to be derogatory towards women. It's not to be derogatory to new mothers. It's to talk about how these Democrats and how cunts like this waste your taxpayer dollars, waste your time, and play games that benefit themselves. And by the way, a Republican ended up joining her. Several Republicans ended up joining her to be on her side. These Republicans are rhinos. These Republicans that tried to pretend that they did this because they support women and they support new moms, they stupidly roped themselves into the Democrat game and a Democrat narrative and played along with this bullshit and this woman. And shame on those Republicans for doing it. It was... One of them was, here she is, another conversation, baby's in her arms. I have no problem that she's a new mom. I have no problem she has a 1-month-old and she's happy about being a mom. But I'm showing you all these videos, and can you see the disgusting habit that she is using her baby as a prop in order to accomplish her narrative. And let me ask all the moms, all the single moms, all the dads, all the parents, everybody out there, were you allowed within your job and within your career to use your child as a prop in order to push this bullshit narrative that this bitch has done? I'm willing to bet none of you have. And this is my problem with it. You're serving in Congress, one of the easiest jobs you could possibly do. So she got voted in. Now she can do whatever the fuck she feels like now that she's been voted in by the people. She can work against them. She can fuck them over. It doesn't matter. The worst they can do is either, one, impeach her or a vote of no confidence, or two, vote her out the next time a vote comes up. So she can do whatever she wants. So now she's wasting taxpayer dollars, she's wasting taxpayers' time, and she's parading her young kid, which is not America's baby. We didn't knock her up. Congratulations, you're a new mom. You have joined the billions of billions of women since time immemorial to have a kid. Fuck off. You're not special. No one gives a fuck. But you have to sit on your lazy ass, which is what this vote is for. Sit on your lazy ass at home. By the way, why is she so special that she can't hire a babysitter? Why is she so special that her husband is not involved? Where the fuck is he? Where's the baby daddy? That he isn't watching his own child while she takes care of her responsibilities in Congress. No one is talking about that. But she's pushing this vote in Congress to new mothers to vote by proxy, sit on their lazy asses, and vote from home on the matters of state and affair for the United States of America. So let me ask any of you that are out there, parents, are you allowed? Here's another one of this fucking bitch parading her kid out there. This stuck-up cunt. Are any of you allowed to phone in your job from home? Can any of you sit on your ass and do your job from your couch while taking care of your newborn? No, you can't. You work with your partner. You get a babysitter. You take your maternity leave. You find a babysitter. You work with your partner. You figure out a schedule. And then you return back to your lives. Why are these congresswomen so special that they don't have to live and compose their life the same way as the American taxpayer? That's what I want to know. And the answer is they're not. You're not special. You don't get to do this. Would it be great in a perfect world that moms and single moms were afforded more opportunities, more time, more paid time off? Dads were afforded more time, paid time off to be with their children? Sure. Is that the way our life is right now? No. And that's the point what I was making when I was talking with this stuck-up Democrat bitch from Colorado. It's disgusting that she's using her child as a prop. It's disgusting that she's pushed this agenda. And it's even more so disgusting that these other moron Republicans joined her for this bullshit initiative. I want to see who joined her on this. Representative Peterson. It was a difficult decision to bring the infant son to the House floor to fight for proxy voting. No, it wasn't. She's doing all this on purpose. She's using the child as a prop, as a tool. Tentative deal has been reached with a Florida Republican, leading a bipartisan push to allow proxy voting in the U.S. House for new parents, potentially ending a standoff that halted legislative work for days and threatened to delay a vote this week to advance President Donald Trump's agenda. House Speaker Mike Johnson and Florida Rep. Anna Paulina Luna, this fucking bitch from Florida, this Republican, she joined in on pushing this agenda. So what I'm saying is this, because I want to be fair where fair is due. It's not just the Democrats. All of these rhinos that jumped in on this bullshit agenda, Anna Paulina Luna from Florida should be primaried and removed as soon as absolutely possible. Anna Paulina Luna is a rhino. She decided to decide with Democrats on this agenda. She should be removed from office. This fake Republican who has been leading the bipartisan push on proxy voting reached the deal, Luna said in a social media post on Sunday. Rather than allow proxy voting, Luna said the agreement would formalize a pairing system long used in Congress where one member who is physically present in the House cancels out the vote of someone who is absent. Luna said the voting option will be open to all Republicans who are unable to vote, including new parents, the bereaved, and lawmakers facing various medical and family emergencies. If we truly want a pro-family Congress, these are the changes that need to happen, Luna said. Let me tell you something. Why aren't there pro-family companies? Why aren't there pro-family businesses? Why can't all of you, as tax-paying Americans, do the bullshit that Peterson and Anna Paulina Luna are weaseling the way into right now? Why can't all of you, as tax-paying Americans, do that? If you can't do it, why are they allowed to? Being a congressperson, one of the easiest jobs on the planet. You just have to be a weasel, a liar, and a scumbag. Why can't you do it? So, once again, TikTok has fucked me over and canceled the live. This fucking TikTok sucks. This is why TikTok needs to be taken over by a pro-freedom company. Because these fucking scumbags fuck everyone over. Harassment and bullying. Because I don't think some lazy cunts shouldn't sit at home and do their job from their fucking couch. Oh, fuck you. I won't censor this show. Go fuck yourself, TikTok's communist pieces of shit. Okay, so fuck TikTok. I'm done with them. Fucking communist fucking pieces of shit. Alright, so we'll move on with the show from the commies and TikTok. The agreement with Luna could end days of back and forth over allowing new parents in Congress to vote via proxy for 12 weeks as they care for their newborns. Fucking figure it out. Get your husband, get your partner, get a fucking babysitter. Figure it out, you lazy fucks. Johnson has vigorously opposed the effort, calling it an affront to the Constitution that would open Pandora's box. That's right. You don't have America's child. We didn't knock you up. Get off your lazy fucking ass and go do your job. The same as every other American is supposed to do. But some Republicans refused to go along with Johnson's bid to kill the resolution, with 9 of them defying him in a vote last week. By reaching a deal, Republican leaders will likely be able to move ahead this week on key legislative priorities, most critically a revised version of the budget framework that opens the door to Trump's push for trillions of dollars in tax breaks. The Senate approved that budget framework early Saturday morning, after grinding through a late-night session. Trump said he was in favor of allowing proxy voting for new parents after speaking with Luna, though he said he would defer to Johnson on how the House should operate. I don't know why it's controversial, Trump said. I disagree with it. We didn't the American people didn't knock you up. Show up and do your fucking job. The same as every other American has to do. All right, so we'll get rid of this shit and the dumb whores that can't take any responsibility for their actions. And we'll move on here. So for the violence with Teslas, it continues to go on, which is why the left is the party of domestic terrorists and actual violence, despite the fact that they try to turn it around and claim that conservatives are violent and conservatives are the ones that are trying to take over America. but you have these leftist fucks that are going around attacking people who own Teslas and doing so violently. This is the most recent thing where a guy ends up pulling in front of a woman, cutting her off, getting out of his car, and physically assaulting the woman. Here it is.
Plus, the new documents that show the original U.S. tariffs had little to do with border security.
Wait a minute, is this what it is? I don't think so.
There's no such thing as a perfect pet.
Shut the fuck up. Hold on a second here. I don't know if this has got to do with the tariffs. No, this has got to do with the tariffs. We're going to get to that. Let's go to this attack on a woman by a crazed lefty who wanted to attack somebody who owns a Tesla. Here it is.
This video is crazy, ladies and gentlemen. A man pulls up to block a woman driving a Tesla and starts punching her in the face. You can't really see anything. Heads up, because we don't like showing that crazy violent stuff. But listen to this report. This is from azfamily.com.
Flagstaff, which is crazy.
Flagstaff. Watch this.
This is video of a Tesla attack in Flagstaff last week. It shows a green car pulling up next to a Tesla on busy Route 66, then swerving in front to box the vehicle in. The driver then walks over to the 61-year-old woman in the Tesla
I want to just...
and reportedly starts hitting her while she's behind the wheel.
I started to say, you cut me off. What's your problem? But I don't know how much of that got out. And he started to punch me with a closed fist.
At one point, the victim, who wants to hide her identity, says she bit the man's hand. Moments later, the passenger of the green car appears to walk over and pull the attacker away. They finally get back in their car and drive off. The incident is among the latest attacks on Arizona Tesla
This
drivers.
piece of shit Saturn, or whatever it is.
Of the car they
What a
drive.
fucking rammed
This
it.
is crazy.
It's insane.
I just want to point out.
Absolutely insane.
What I wanted to point out right away is that they box her in. You can see that not only do they try to stop her, but when she tries to go right,
Then walks over to the...
they pull forward to make sure she's between the curb. I'm jumping that curb. I'm sorry. I don't know. It's a pretty tall curb right there.
Yeah, I'm jumping the curb and I'm fucking running them over. I don't give a fuck.
She's got
These
someone
leftist
behind them.
pieces
I'm
of
not
shit.
Sure, maybe we can see in the video.
woman in the...
By the way,
So
this
in
is
the rear,
another...
she's clear.
This is another argument in why everyone should be armed.
You know what's really crazy about this? Check this out. When they go on to mention another person is attacked, keep listening.
Moments later, the passenger of the green car...
Oh, actually, I don't think I actually have that in the video. In the full report, they mention these two women are now taking gun self-defense classes.
Yeah.
The next
Good.
time
They
some guy
should. You
tries
have
pulling
to.
something like that off, they're gonna get shot.
And depending on where they live, they're going to run their own risk because it's so hard to know whether you're actually going to get in trouble for using your weapon.
I guess they'll have to figure out what the law is too.
Yeah.
I think that's going to be after the fact. I mean, look, a 61-year-old woman getting punched in the face. If she had a gun, she'd shoot him.
Well, these leftist guys are the same ones that have been saying punch a TERF for years and punch Nazis. And now Nazis are people who drive Teslas that they bought in order to help the environment and be environmentally friendly.
Not knowing when they bought it.
Nazis, Nazis love green energy.
If the roles were reversed, we would never hear the end of this. It would be on MSNBC, CNN.
That's right.
Relentlessly. If there was any sort of far
If it was Trump supporters who ended up attacking a leftist because of they were LGBTQ plus minus divided by sign or whatever it was they were doing, this would be played on loop on every leftist channel at nauseum, never ending.
Well, I mean, the people...
This is what goes to show that the left are the domestic terrorists. The left are the fascists. It's interesting, and I got into an argument with somebody who was on one of the Facebook sites, some dumb bitch, and I said, Antifa is actually the group of attacking people, hurting people, forcing their ideology on others. And she was like, no, their name is Antifa, which if you look it up in the dictionary, it means anti-fascist. I'm like, you can fucking look up whatever you want. But they are working counteractive to what their name actually is. I can name myself whatever the fuck I want, but if I do the exact opposite of what I claim I am, I'm not the thing that I claim I am. If I claim I'm anti-fascist, and then I tell people they're not allowed to say anything, and then I attack and hurt people because they do things I don't like, I'm the fascist. But there are literally people who are so stupid that they think they're the heroes of the violent actions and domestic terrorist actions that they take. They're the heroes of their own story. Antifa is a domestic terrorist organization. They are not anti-fascists. They are, in fact, fascists. They go after people that disagree with them and they hurt them. They go after people who disagree with their sentiment and they hurt them. They disagree with it. They go after anyone that disagrees with their ideology, and they attack them and they hurt them. This is what they do. They are not anti-fascists. They are fascists, and this is what the left is. They are fascists. They're the ones that are knocking down free speech. You're not allowed to call a tranny. You're not allowed to say that a man can't be a woman. Not as far as they're concerned. You're not allowed to say that these people are mentally ill. You're not allowed to say that the left and the Democrats hate America and are fucking people over. According to them, you're not allowed to say these things. That's what a fascist says to you. That you're not allowed to have your freedom of speech in the country that has laws that protect your freedom of speech. Now, for these morons, I say go ahead and say whatever you want. Because any of the rest of us who have a functioning brain can see through your garbage, can see that you're liars, and can see that you hate America and you are trying to fuck over the American people. It is very clear. The reason you fight back against, how you fight back against liars, how you fight back against the disingenuous, is by letting them speak. If I came up here and said, up is down, right is left, water isn't wet, water isn't blue, people can fly, I just have to say that. And anyone that is a free thinker whose brain functions will look at it and go, that's bullshit. This guy's full of shit. People can't fly. Water is wet. Most water is blue, unless you're going to a lake or a pond. Right is not left. Right is right and left is left. You can very clearly and very obviously argue all of these points. So the only thing you need to let me do is spout my garbage, and you will know I'm full of shit. That's all you need to do. Let the person speak. For the left, with having arguments and their hate against the right, their hate against conservatives and people like myself, then the only thing that you need to do is let me speak. And when everyone hears what I have to say, if what you believe is true, you will know I'm full of shit and I'm a liar. That's it. And then you'll tune out. You won't follow me. You won't listen to me. I will lose any platform that I have. And there will be nothing else for me to say. It's a very simple, very straightforward process, despite how complicated everyone makes it. What happens with the left is that they have to lie. They have to force their ideology on you. And it's the only way for them to force you into that ideology, to force you into that line of thinking, because if you were to approach it and discuss it rationally, you would know that it's bullshit. You would know it was absolutely ridiculous. So the reason that the left pushes and adheres to violence is because it's the only tool available to them to force you into their ideology, their way of thinking. Conservatives don't have to do that because when I'm talking to you, the only thing I'm using is common sense. If you don't like that and you don't describe to that, then goodbye, have a good day. I don't know what there is I'm supposed to do or what I'm supposed to say to you. If I'm supposed to pummel you with the proverbial stick, you're too dumb for me to bring you into the ranks of the sane. If I have to beat you with the proverbial stick. So if you can't pull your head out of your ass and come to this conclusion on your own, you're lost. Until you can figure it out. And that's what the left is. They're lost. They can't come to these conclusions on their own, or they don't want to. That's where the leftist ideology comes from. Okay. So now we're going to get to the Trump tariffs. Bear with me a second here. Because I was live, and now I don't know if TikTok is fucking me over as well. It canceled out for no reason on its own. Nope, still live as far as I know here. I don't know why it clicked out like that. That's weird. All right, so I'm live on YouTube. I'm live on Rumble. The leftist, fascist, communist pukes canceled the show on TikTok, and I'll resolve that when I can. In the meantime, we'll continue here. So with the tariffs, I'm a supporter of Trump. I'm a MAGA supporter. I'm a supporter of his actions. And I said I'm here for the tariffs. But that doesn't mean that I'm a blind follower. There's a discussion to be had about the tariffs and how they're going to benefit us down the road. So let's talk about a little bit about it and some of the problems I have with it as I'm learning more information about it. So let's get into it here and then we'll move forward.
Campaign trail promises, the Liberals on trades, the Conservatives on red tape, and the NDP on the doctor shortage.
So this was yesterday, as you know, the leftist shitbags all went on protests. They were all over the country whining and moaning and pissing. I did a video about this on TikTok making fun of them. They're accomplishing nothing. They're doing nothing, but they had to piss and moan about it. You notice they don't do that when the Democrats in office and they're fucking you over. They have no problem with it, no protests. But when it's a Republican in office and a conservative in office, they're whining and pissing and moaning. So here's some of that with the bullshit waste of time protests that happened yesterday.
Bringing down the Great One's record.
In Washington, D.C.
So we say to Donald Trump and Elon Musk, hands off Greenland. That's an independent
Hands
country.
off Greenland.
Hands off Canada. That's an independent country.
And around the world, people have gathered by the masses to decry the actions of President Donald Trump and his advisor, tech billionaire Elon Musk. From Portugal.
Freedom is at stake in the United States and for the whole world with what
Lisbon, Portugal. Why the fuck do we care what Portugal thinks about what's going on in the America? Paris, again?
Poorest countries in the world.
Paris, by the way, these fucking moron hypocrites. If anyone isn't following this, what has happened to the European Union, England, France, Germany? These leftist shitbags that are in charge have opened up their borders, have allowed the worst of immigrants to come into the country. Muslims, South Africans, anywhere that they've come from, that are the worst trash that you can possibly bring into your country. They are not making them better. They are not the free thinkers and the greatest minds of their time. They're the worst trash that they could ever bring into these countries. And this is what they've done. There are areas of France that is not safe for the people of France or you as a tourist to walk into, because you have the potential of being attacked by a Muslim gang, your young child or a woman being raped by a Muslim gang, and this is happening. If you go with the author, Dan, I have his book here. and I gotta find it. It's Dan something. He's a gay man living in the UK. And now I can't find it on my bookshelf. It's like The Madness of Crowds and a couple others. Anyone's that are familiar with it. He's done a couple of books talking about what's happening in the UK. Okay, I'll just fucking look it up so we can bring up the name here. The Madness of Crowds. No, it's not Charles Mackay. It's Douglas Murray. Douglas Murray is the author of The Madness of Crowds and others. This is a gay man for anyone that wants to, because the sexuality and the personal preference of people matters so much right now. So this is not a straight white conservative. This is a gay man who I believe leans conservative, who has written a book, a very, very interesting book, and he lists actual facts. And this is young women and older women who are in France, in England, that are walking into areas that are no longer safe for the citizens of the UK, the citizens of France. If you walk into that area, you are no longer safe because there are roving bands of Muslim men. And these Muslim men are an old style of thinking. For anyone that has looked into the hardcore religious following of Muslim nations, they'll have a Sharia law. Sharia law is, in a nutshell, that women do not have the same rights as everyone else. Women don't even have the same rights as a young male. Women cannot go outdoors and travel by themselves. Women are not allowed to drive cars. Women are not allowed to leave the home without being accompanied by a man. Women are not allowed to go outside unless they are appropriately covered. So it's the shawl around the head. It is a full bodily covering, which includes the ankles. It's any skin that can be exposed, shown to a man. And again, in a nutshell, because I don't understand it 100%, I just know the general nutshell of how this works. Any skin that can be exposed to a man is temptation to that man, which does not fall back to the responsibility of the man. It falls back to the responsibility of the woman, essentially equating her to promiscuity, being a whore. Showing off your ankles, showing off your arms, showing off your face, potentially showing off cleavage. These are all things that are a temptation to a man. And what is in Sharia law, what is in hardcore Muslim law is if you are showing any of this off, you are asking for trouble. You are asking for the bad thing to happen to you. You are asking for that attack to happen. You are asking for that sexual assault to happen as that woman. One, you weren't even supposed to be out by yourself. Two, you're asking for the negative attention to you. Should you be out and not clothed properly? Now, all of these immigrants have come over from these Muslim countries. They've come over to Italy, France, Germany, England, and they have been allowed to take over areas which are no longer safe for the citizens of that country, natural born citizens, Ireland as well, to actually walk into those areas. In Douglas Murray, in his books, we're talking about how the authorities were encouraged not to talk about the rape of these women, not to talk about the rape and sexual assault of the young girls. So we're talking 12, 13, 14. Because if they were allowed to come into the space of conversation, into the news, into the newspaper, into the general public and understanding, it would enforce the xenophobia against the Muslims and against the immigrants that were in the country. So when these poor families' daughters were attacked, when these women were attacked, the authorities, the families, and the government all pushed for the discussion not to happen. To not talk about that these women were attacked. So these European countries are being taken over by these Muslims and by these Western Europeans from all these shit countries. The worst of the worst are coming in and taking over their countries from natural born members. They're not coming in legally. They're coming in illegally and then being given some sort of citizenship. And then if the people fight back, the people are arrested. The natural-born, tax-paying citizens are arrested. And the illegals are given the benefit of the doubt over everything. So the Europeans commenting on what's happening here on the United States is laughable. It's a joke, and it's disgusting because they don't have the right to say it. Because innocent people are being attacked. We're doing something about it. We're fighting back in the United States. We're closing our border. We're going after MS-13 gang members. We're going after the illegals. We're deporting them, arresting them. We're taking action, whereas the Democrats wanted to hurt people. And the European countries, they're letting them all take over. And there was something, it was either in the Quran or it was in just the Muslim faith in general. I forget where I read this, so I'm speaking off the cuff with this on where it came from. But I want to say it was essentially in the second part of the Quran, because the Quran is split into two parts, where the Prophet Muhammad in the first part was a good person who protected the innocent, helped people, and promoted everyone getting along and loving each other. And then apparently, and I only know so much about it because I don't give a shit about the Quran. It splits into a second part where the Prophet Muhammad becomes very vengeful and very evil. And then he's attacking villages and attacking the infidels, anyone that doesn't believe. And it's you're allowed to do the worst things to infidels without repercussion, because you can if you do it in the name of the Prophet Muhammad, their God. And in this second part, there is I think, and again I'm going from memory here, so if I'm wrong, I apologize. There are parts that are saying that they can infiltrate and take over the world, that they do not have the technology, that they don't necessarily have the numbers, but that they can be an insidious force, that they can move into other territories and other parts of the world, that they can work from the inside out. Again, as a worm working its way through an apple, as an analogy, to rot out and destroy the apple. It was that these Muslims in the Quran could go into these places, into these countries, into these infrastructure, and root it and rot it out from the inside out. So they wouldn't have the numbers, but they could be, or the technology, but they could be insidious, and they could take this route in order to accomplish what they were doing. And this is what's happening in the nations of the European Union. Germany, France, England, and others. This is where it's happening. There was one woman on TikTok who did a video, and she said there were like 5 or 6 mayors of towns within England that are all Muslim at this point. All of this play is towards the Muslim faith and ideology insidiously taking over these other countries and other cultures. And the left is not only allowing it, but they're inviting it in order to allow this chaos. And the innocent people of these countries end up being harmed as a result of it. I'll continue here. You see these shitbags in France who have no right whatsoever to talk about what's happening in the United States. And here's them and others.
What do you say?
Everybody else, even penguins, were affected by the tariffs.
As Americans also
penguins are affected by the tariffs.
Of government
fucking
agencies
retards.
With hundreds of thousands of federal job cuts.
I haven't seen a plan that this is making things more efficient. I've just seen that it is going to lead to more chaos and people really not having their needs met.
This global show of solidarity comes as Trump's unilateral 10% tariffs on nearly all imports take effect.
What we have is we have a set of tariffs based on what they've been charging us. That's reciprocal. We put ourselves in the driver's seat.
The fallout from Trump's tariffs have been swift, causing deep declines in the U.S. stock market and stoking fears of a global recession. In a phone conversation Saturday, British Prime Minister Keir Starmer and French President Emmanuel Macron
all a bunch
vowed
of
to,
leftist
quote,
shitbags.
closely coordinate their positions in tariff talks with Trump as both leaders hope to negotiate better trade terms. In a surprising departure from Trump's enthusiasm for tariffs, Elon Musk told an Italian deputy prime minister,
I hope it is agreed that both Europe and the United States should move, ideally, in my view, to a zero tariff situation, effectively creating a free trade zone between Europe and North America.
While the world holds its breath and wallets to see what happens next, British automaker Jaguar Land Rover is already pausing shipments to the U.S. for a month to figure out how to deal with Trump's 25% levies on all auto imports. Candace Cole, Global News, Washington.
The U.S. Department of Commerce has signaled duties on Canadian softwood lumber could more than double later this year. Following an administrative review, the department says Canadian lumber producers could see combined duties rise to more than 34% compared to the current 14.4%. Canadian officials have said any increase would harm workers on both sides of the border. Meanwhile, the federal government has quietly updated its online travel advice for Canadians heading to the U.S. Official guidance now warns of the significant discretion U.S. border officers now have when it comes to deciding who enters their country, including the power to search phones and laptops. As the U.S. tariff offensive spreads around the world, Global News is learning Donald Trump's original tariffs on Canada had little to do with border security. As Taria Isri reports, even before the U.S. president's inauguration, he was...
Shut the fuck up, you leftist cunt. So let's get into the tariffs. And let's talk about what's going on, because I'm 50-50 about it. I'm a Trump supporter. I'm a conservative, but I don't blindly follow. I will have an open discussion about what's going on, and I think we need to. So let's get into it a little bit and see what we're looking at with the tariffs. So the trade war, President Donald Trump promised has begun, threatening the world economy and straining the United States' long-standing alliances in Europe and Asia. Goods imported from dozens of countries and territories are now going to be taxed at sharply higher rates, and that is expected to drive up the costs of everything from cars to clothes to computers. These tariffs, which can run as high as 50%, are meant to punish countries for trade barriers that Trump says unfairly limit U.S. exports and cause it to run huge trade deficits. Bear this in mind when I get into the numbers later, because you've been hearing a lot about how the numbers don't add up. So we're tariffing one country at a far larger margin than what the country actually does. And then people are saying, this doesn't make any sense. What they're mentioning right here is explanative of why it's happening, and we'll get into it. So I'll continue for now. The Trump says unfairly limit U.S. exports and cause it to run huge trade deficits. Even countries with which the U.S. enjoys trade surplus, meaning it sells to them more than it buys, such as the United Kingdom and Argentina, are being targeted with a minimum tariff of 10%, and the highest tariffs are landing on two tiny territories that trade little with America, the African kingdom of Lesotho and the French possession of Saint Pierre, and the Miquelon off of Canada's Atlantic coast. For decades, global commerce abided by tariff rates agreed to by the U.S. and 122 other countries during the 1980s and 90s. On Wednesday, Trump detonated that arrangement, saying that other countries had exploited the system and ripped off the United States for years, causing its once mighty manufacturing base to shrink. Our country has been looted, pillaged, raped, and plundered, the president said in a rose garden. Globe financial markets recoiled on Thursday. On Wall Street, the Dow Jones Industrial dropped 1,679 points, or nearly 4%, and the U.S. dollar fell against other major currencies, a sign that investors are worried about the U.S. economy. This is a game changer, not only for the U.S. economy, but for the global economy, said Olu Sonola, head of U.S. economic research for Fitch Ratings. Many countries will likely end up in a recession. You can throw most forecasts out the door if this terrorist rate stays on for an extended period of time. During the presidential campaign, Trump repeatedly talked about imposing a universal tariff of 10 to 20% on all imports. The new 10% baseline tariffs fit the description. He also threatened to hit imports from China with 60% tariffs, and he's now, slapping a reciprocal tariff of 34% on China on top of the 20% levies he announced earlier this year. Combine the new tariffs on China with the ones left over from his first term and from President Joe Biden's, and the full tax on Chinese goods will now approach 70%, said Julian Evans, Pritchard of Capital Economics. It's extreme, but it aligns with what Trump campaigned on, said Erica York, Vice President of Federal Tax Policy at the Tax Foundation. Nobody knows if the tariffs will prove permanent or if the U.S. will lower or drop them in response to other countries negotiating to reduce their own tariffs and other trade barriers. So let's talk a little bit about it, because you've been hearing a lot of things, and so have I. You've been hearing what countries actually tax us for tariffs. So that's goods coming from the United States into their respective country. And then you're hearing what the Trump administration is actually taxing them, and it's much higher. So initially when the discussion was happening, a lot of people were talking about how the numbers don't add up. They're wrong. They're false, right? So you'll get a Madagascar, for example, and we've put a 47% tariff on Madagascar. Madagascar is a very poor country. We are buying from whatever goods from Madagascar far more than Madagascar is buying from us. So I think Madagascar's tariff rate is like 10 to 14%. And now we're putting a 47% tariff on them. And people are asking why these numbers are happening and what's the disconnect on all of this. So I've had to look at this and attempt to understand where this is coming from. So what appears to have happened here is Trump is tariffing all these countries based on how they're benefiting from doing business with the United States. So not the actual physical tariff that country is charging us. This is almost like unrealized gains. So if you've heard the discussion about unrealized gains, it's attempting to tax on stocks. It's been this discussion about taxing people based on what the stock is worth, even though you haven't sold it. So if you look at unrealized gains on these tariffs, it's not what the country is actually tariffing us at. It's how they've been benefiting from doing business with the United States. And this is how President Trump is tariffing all these countries around the rest of the world. In layman's terms, it's a little bit of a punishment, as I'm personally looking at it, just to be clear. It's a punishment. So there's a 21% in Saute-Leveau. There's in Guyana, there's a 38% tariff. Venezuela is 15%. Mexico is 25%. 25% on Canada. Even though I think Canada's maybe charging us 14, 15. We've upped it to 25. You've got Switzerland. We've cranked it up to 32. Romania, we've 10%. Okay, this map is showing you what the current tariffs on U.S. imports is happening currently. So, a negotiation tool. The administration sees tariffs as a way to put pressure on trade partners during negotiations, as well as a potential bargaining chip. Used in this way, tariff rates can increase U.S. leverage and result in new trade agreements like the U.S.-China Phase 1 trade deal signed during President Donald Trump's first term. As a punitive tool, so punishment. Trump administration officials have stated that they would like to avoid overuse of financial sanctions as a form of coercive economic statecraft, since they believe it can incentivize countries to reduce their reliance on the U.S. dollar. As an alternative, the Trump administration is relying more on tariffs to punish or sanction, including for non-trade issues. The administration values the ability to easily escalate the tariff rate and therefore its punitive power. So this is what I'm touching base on. They're not tariffing percentage for percentage on all the countries. This is more a punishment tool, as the Trump administration is using. It's you haven't been meeting or putting out your fair share for being able and allowed the privilege of selling your product to as large as a consumer base as the United States. As one of the largest, most wealthiest countries in the world, you're going to want to sell all of your shit in the United States. And if your company is paying a lower tariff rate to send your crap into the United States, you're benefiting from this deal. This is the reason you're seeing the disproportionate numbers in this trade war and this tariff war. So, in looking at this for me personally, I get it. I wouldn't have necessarily have done it because it's disrupting trade so much around the entire hemisphere. I understand the end result. And the end result is to bring all of the countries back into the fold in fair participation. I think that's the ultimate goal here. In cranking up the tariffs on everybody, it's meant for them to be such a pain and such a problem that they go, okay, let's sit down at the negotiating table, let's figure out something better, and let's figure out a fair way for everyone to negotiate around the world. I believe that's the reason Trump is pushing this so much. But as far as the disruption of trade across the globe, it's also problematic. And the fine line that he's walking in pushing this situation is, are you going to fall off the tightrope, or are you going to get between the gorge and you're going to make it work? And the economy is such a fickle beast that you have either or is just as possible and just as viable. That you could fall off that rope rather than have it work out and you get to the other side. That's my personal concern about it. So I'm still supportive of it. My personal opinion and thought process is let Trump cook and let this play out. The only ones that are bitching about it are the rich shitbags who it's affecting their bottom line. That's why you're hearing it from the Ben Shapiros. That's why you're hearing it from these other companies. The reason they're pissing and moaning so much is it's affecting their money amount in the stock market. It's affecting their bottom line, and they don't like their money being fucked with. The rich pieces of shit that don't have anything to do with the rest of us working class that are just trying to get through life. So ignore them and focus on the end result. And the end result is fair trade with the United States by all these other shit countries that want to do their own thing, and attempting to bring economy and business back to the United States. Because so many companies have outsourced to every other country. Let me ask you the last time you got a customer service representative that spoke English. It wasn't what, oh, I'm so sorry about your problem, Mr. Matt. Let me look into this and see what I can do. And I'm like, what? First of all, I'm not Mr. Matt. That's not how you speak to a person from the United States. It's not Mr. Matt, Mr. Caroline, Mr. fucking so-and-so. It's not Mr. That's not how language works. But it is when you're someone living in your own shit in India. Oh, Mr. Matt, I'm so sorry about your... First of all, no, you're not. That's just the sheet you're reading from. You're not sorry about my problem. And then afterwards, you're going to come back and bullshit me about my problem. And then I'm going to fight to even understand what the fuck you're talking about in order to resolve my problem. That's because all these countries have outsourced to the most shithole countries in the world. And India is one of the most shithole countries in the world. I don't care that that's not kosher to say. They live in their own shit. They're eating shit. They're drinking piss. They worship cows as gods. And from every indication that I've ever heard, because I will not voluntarily fly or go to India, because I'm not accustomed to simply punching myself in the nuts for fun, I'm not going to go to India. Any person with any sane thought process whatsoever is not voluntarily for vacation purposes going to India. It's a literal shithole. But the reason also all of your customer service representatives over there are Indian because they can pay them 25 cents an hour. And to them, they're making a living over there. I don't have to eat shit. I can eat salt-infused shit? Oh, what can I do? It's a shithole. And it's cheap for the companies to work in. That's why when you have a conversation with customer service, you can barely fucking accomplish anything. Because you can't understand what the fucks are saying. This push to bring companies back to the United States, which is part of this tariff deal, which is part of the ultimate goal that Trump is trying to achieve, is so maybe when you have an issue with your bill, with your company, with your loan company, with your cell phone company, you can make a call to customer service and maybe get another American speaking clear English who can assist you with your problem. Which would be fucking amazing to me. Because I can't remember the last time I spoke to an American for a customer service situation. Can any of you that are watching, can any of you remember the last time you spoke to an American who spoke clear English that was also competent enough to resolve your issue? Can anyone remember it? I can't. With any of the companies I deal with, Verizon, my credit cards, anything. The only thing I get is some fucking Indian that I can barely understand. That's the importance of bringing companies back to the United States and these fucking call centers back to the United States. You got to pay them a fair wage, and I would like to understand them when they're telling me about my problem and how we fix it. I would like to understand what the fuck they're saying. Now, with the tariffs and how much we're charging, and I said that I get it. But me personally, and they're not asking me for my opinion, the Trump administration isn't calling me, I just would have charged them exactly what they're charging us. So if Madagascar was, this is what we're charging them, 47%. Madagascar, I think, is 14%. I would have reciprocally, which is what Trump has said, charged Madagascar 14%. So the only thing I would have done personally was an eye for an eye. I think it would have kept the world economy calmer. I think it would have kept the stock market calmer. and businesses around the world calmer and more on track. Because you would have to argue that you're charging me 14%, so therefore I'm charging you 14%. So the only thing we're doing is breaking even between you and I. And that's hard to argue because fair is fair. And if you don't like it, lower yours and we'll go ahead and lower ours. So it's a tough game to play. We're going to let Trump cook and we're going to see how it plays out. Hopefully the rest of the world gets on board and they lower all of theirs. And then I fully believe that Trump will lower all of ours. And then everyone will be able to do business in a much more calmer, lower atmosphere where we're getting back on the same page. But we'll see how it plays out. But charging them all extra, I do get it. But I think it was a harsh move and a bad play. Because we need to show that the new administration in office is in charge, making good decisions and helping everyone. And they're bringing the price of goods down. And this problem is it's not. When we tariff all the countries at a higher level, in order to bring the goods into the United States, they're going to have to raise their prices. And then that is going to pass on to the consumers. And we as consumers will pay a higher price for everything that's coming in. Now, we were already doing that with the corrupt Biden regime. But now with Trump's tariffs, we will also pay more. Now, I made an argument when I did a video that there are two schools of thought happening here. One is when we were being forced into bad situations and decisions with the corrupt Biden regime, we were exactly that. We were forced. And there's nothing patriotic about being forced. There's nothing beneficial about being forced. There's just, we're dragged through the mud. This situation is happening, and chances are nothing good is going to happen for you. That's what happened with the corrupt Biden regime. He pushed the Green New scam. He pushed the EV shit, and he told all the other countries, well, we don't want to buy your oil anymore. We're going to go electric vehicle, and fuck you guys. So they were like, okay, fuck you too. So we're either going to drill less or we're going to raise our oil prices so it's more expensive for you to buy oil because one of our largest business ventures is going to go dry because you're all going to buy EVs, even though we all can't buy EVs, right? The corrupt Biden regime didn't have a plan to put a brand new Tesla with a gigantic pink or red bow on it in your driveway for everybody. You had to go and pay out of pocket between 30 and 60 grand to buy one. If you didn't have it, you were fucked. But you were still being dragged through the mud for the Green New scam bullshit that Biden was pushing through. There's nothing patriotic about that endeavor. And they had no plan to transition everybody to EVs. So there's nothing helpful there. The difference to that is Trump's tariffs and Trump's plan does have an end goal, and it does have a light at the end of the tunnel, which is attempt to bring major business back to the United States, attempt to bring car manufacturing back to the United States, attempt to bring overall business back to the United States. That's something that is worth standing strong and taking the patriotic sacrifice to weather the storm through. There's the difference between the two pictures. Biden and his bullshit wasn't helping anybody but the rich. Trump's actions are going to be like short-term pain for long-term gain. So, yes, we're going to pay more for things. Yes, this is going to continue to be a difficult time. However, there is an end result that we're trying to reach that is the benefit of the entire United States and the entire taxpayer and consumer. That's the goal he's trying to reach. I don't know if we reach it because It's a volatile and dangerous game that we're playing right now in order to get there. And it's messing with and manipulating the world economy. And that's why you're getting all the negative press right now. This is why we're running into this difficult situation right now. So, my personal opinion, and all of you have to form an opinion of your own. You know, when I did this show, it wasn't to bullshit my followers and the American people. It's as a taxpayer talking to the taxpayers. And it's to tell you that, cut through the bullshit and tell you the truth. There are going to be some things that are not going to get better, but the situation is different than the corrupt Biden regime was in office. So what we have to wait and see, or what you have to decide if you're willing to, is wait to see and let Trump cook and see if this works out for the advantage of everyone. It's possible it won't. And I'll come out and say it's not working. I'll come out and truthfully say right now I have my concerns about it. Because we're so over-tariffing the other countries. And they're going to have a negative reaction. They're going to fight back. Our hope, in Trump's hope, is they'll eventually back off and play ball. If they don't, we will have to back off and play ball, and we will have to lessen all of the tariffs. And that's going to be a hit politically for Trump and his administration, because it's going to shed a negative light on them. It's going to show that this didn't work, and it's going to show that all of the left and the Democrats were right and all of us were wrong. So it's just as much of a dangerous game for the economy as it is for overall American politics. So Trump has to walk this tightrope, and he has to make sure that he gets to the other side of the canyon. So we'll wait and see how it plays out. Right now, we were already paying too much for everything. We're already paying too much for cars, even before this happened. Cars are way overpriced. The prices are ridiculous. The loan times are like 6 years to pay off your car. It was already bullshit. If the car prices ended up going up, fuck them. Don't buy a new car. Buy used. Most of the time, that's what I do to save money. Buy used. That's my advice. Don't buy a fucking new car. You're getting ripped off. Even before the tariffs, you're getting ripped off. They were already too much. So, in the beginning thralls of this, let Trump cook, and let's see how it all plays out. I don't necessarily agree with it, but also, let's see if it yields the results that he wants. Okay? So, I'm going to wrap up the show here for now, because I think we're well over an hour. We're probably on our way to almost 2 hours, because I started at about 7 o'clock, and we're on our way to 9:15. So I'm going to do some more updates over the course of next week. We're on TikTok for whatever that turns into and however long that lasts. As you guys can see, my live was already taken down for hate speech. I don't like what you're saying, because there's a bunch of leftist communist pukes that run that platform. I mean, I wouldn't give a shit if I watched TikTok burn to the ground. But it's a way to generate new followers, so I play ball, even though it leaves a bad taste in my mouth. In the meantime, my primary sources are YouTube, and they are Rumble. And thank you for all the new followers. We've gotten a whole bunch more on Rumble. We're at 52 at this point on Rumble. And let's keep in mind, I started with like 2. And now we're at 52. So thanks for all the new viewers, and we're steadily going up there. And YouTube is a much harder platform because it's so left-wing Democrat-based. For a conservative, even if you're a larger platform, a conservative on YouTube will fight to get views. For me, someone who's building one, I'm about this far under fucking water. I'm breathing in water at this point and trying to tread water. So it's extremely difficult there, and we've got 16 people on YouTube, and I could barely get past like 2 when I first started. So it's getting out there. It's sharing with other people, and I'm really thankful and I'm really appreciative. I've got Cash App right now currently, and I have to do other things. For anyone that likes the show and anyone that's willing to donate, it's $Relief Valve Podcast at Cash App. And one of the things I do is I don't harass my viewers and followers. I don't bullshit you with ads and begging for donations and everything. I don't do it. Everyone's fighting to make the money that they make. And as someone who's also there with all of you, it's not something I'm going to shove down everyone's throat. I don't like doing it. So if you'd like to donate and help the show, great. I appreciate it. And if you don't, thank you for being new followers. Thank you for being new people that are participating in the show. I really appreciate it. Thank you again. So that's the Sunday Shitbag Roundup, and the shitbags, as always, are the radical left and the Democrats. 9 times out of 10, they already are, because they're anti-Americans, and they're pieces of shit that would very happily watch the country burn down, and in most cases, that's exactly what they're trying to do. So please keep following the show on Rumble, on YouTube, on TikTok as well, as long as I can keep the platform running. And I will keep doing updates throughout the week. The last ones I have to do is more exposure by Hunter Biden. Ben & Jerry's a left-wing shithole that is always pushing left-wing propaganda, has had to fire their CEO over the left-wing propaganda. The Green New Scam in saving the planet, I'm going to debunk that and show you why it is really fake with what's going on in Brazil for the new climate summit that's coming up. And some of this bullshit about people who are being deported and whether they're regular innocent Americans that just ran into a mistake, and that's not the case. They were actually supporting and or members of the MS-13 gang, and they were deported with just cause. So I'm going to get into that starting Monday, tomorrow. Thanks again for everyone that are new members that are joining the show. I really appreciate it. I've got to go and figure out the TikTok live issue that I ran into tonight. And thanks again for joining us in the Shitbag Roundup. And we'll be seeing you all again soon for next week's Shitbag Roundup. And, of course, daily I post up regular updates on all of the platforms. Thank you again, everyone, and we'll talk to you again soon.